high-level recap, people on YouTube, what we talked about was drafter's perspective in reviewing the drawings, engineer's perspective in reviewing the drawings, contractor's perspective in reviewing the drawings. This is how you should be doing drawing reviews, QAQC, before it ever goes to the EOR, and definitely before it ever goes out to whoever you're contracted to or to the client. This is the very minimum of how this should work. All right, today we are going through how to review internal QAQC specific drawings for electrical I and C, which is pretty much what I do. And today I've got a coworker who I think is going to be really awesome and upcoming, and I look forward to working with her quite often in the future, hopefully. But since we're currently working separately, we have to go through these things so that we can both be on the same page. My sheets are the electrical sheets, which you will see identified down here by the E's, and hers are mostly the I sheets, which you'll see identified by the I's. So I am reviewing the I sheets, knowing that my E sheets still need a little work because we're at the 90% submission as opposed to the final submission. So having said that, we'll jump right into it. All right, so the first thing that I look for when I'm reviewing these drawings is I will always come down to the right-hand corner and just start flipping through them. And I'm looking for things jumping around. And people on YouTube, these big white spaces, they're covered up for anonymity so that there's normally things in these spaces. There is on the actual PDF, but not here on the video I'm posted on YouTube. So first thing I see that this was reviewed by somebody else. I don't know if your initials need to go in here or Tony's or who. Normally I see these filled out all the way, even on the I1 sheets, the E1 sheets, so on and so forth, because I understand we didn't draft them, but y'all, you, me, whoever actually puts their initials here. I just quickly go through there and recognize, oh, like that's blank and that one's blank, and go through them all like that and just kind of highlight the ones that aren't entirely filled out like they should be. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not going to go through them all because I already did. Markups are ready to be posted online, but that. The next thing I will do is I'll kind of zoom out and look at the overall border and make sure it's not jumping all over the place, which means I'll quickly flip through them. And if I see this corner moving or something jumping everywhere, that tells me that we've got something hanging off. People that are doing the QCs on here will quickly recognize that and say, hey, we got a problem somewhere, and flag it. Again, this is all the stuff that I do on my own drawings before I send them out to anybody to review them. Once I've verified that corner and all of these initials are taken care of, then I'll come through and kind of give it a general look, starting from the beginning starting from here. So I'll kind of flip through and make sure that nothing appears obvious quickly jumping through here, like if general notes text style changes, or if you got general notes up here, key notes down there, and then they flip. I did notice that on one of them. I don't remember exactly where, but just kind of quickly flipping through here, I noticed that there was the empty general notes, so I threw that on there. And people on YouTube, this is an anonymity marker as well, so just ignore it. Like I said, just quickly flip through here. If they're blank, that's fine. If you don't have any general notes, some clients care, sometimes clients don't. A lot of the EORs care. They still want to see, no general notes applicable or a general note on every single thing, just so that you've got to make sure Tony's okay with that. Does that make sense?
Yes. So no general note, and then if there's keynotes, do I still put no general notes above that?
That is ultimately up to Tony.
Okay.
He's the EOR. You develop your own style as you go. Um, as you become an engineer, you will come up with your own style and system for specific purposes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. And one thing I did forget to mention is I review all drawings from 3 different perspectives at minimum. Okay, from a drafter's perspective, like if I just had a CAD drafter drafting this, did they do a decent job? Does it overall look good? Which is the state that we're in currently talking about right now. Does it look good? Is there anything dumb that I missed as a drafter? The next, I look at it from an engineer perspective. Did I get, conductor sizing down correctly? Did I get major design requirements down? Let me go to some of my sheets because it might be better. Did I size this conductor properly? That's the engineering side of things that I look at from. So drafter, engineer, and then contractor. Can I actually physically build this in the field? And that's a major step a lot of engineers overlook. And the first time somebody, contractor is staring you in the face and you're in the field and they go, I can't physically build this. What were you thinking? And what do you want me to do now? Because I'm about to charge you a lot of money. That's a hard question to answer because, you can't fit a 2-aught conductor in the back of a receptacle that you sized to 2-aught because the voltage drop, right? It doesn't physically work like that. So, all right. So having said all that, so if you look at my e-sheets, you can see my text is a lot different than your I-sheets, which is fine, but it's not. All right. So I've got Arial narrow up on here, and I could tell yours is probably Arial, just Arial, maybe even Arial bold. I can't quite tell, but they don't look the same. They also don't start from the same perspective. So mine starts, right about there. Your one's up against the edge, mine's not.
And I do believe mine's changes. It's not consistent.
It does. Please go into my model and steal my
Mhm.
general notes family and my keynotes keynotes family. You can steal my families out of there and just paste them in there, because I also
Cool.
noticed that the person that originally made these had this line at the bottom of the general notes keynotes, but that's not the standard at which the company we currently work for applies. So there shouldn't be a line down here anymore. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes.
So small things like that. All right, so that takes care of the right-hand side, basically the title block in this case. The next thing I'll quickly look for is the north arrow. Whether it's top right, top left, whatever the standard is for the company that you work for or subbing out to, there was a single a single sheet on yours that had the north arrow. Everything else, they were all missing, just so that you're aware. I did go ahead and call that out. That pretty much takes care of this half. The next thing I will do is I'll go through and look at the individual view titles. All right. So for y'all's, for instance, let me pull mine up again. All right. So your view title's over here on the left. It's not centered. It's got a single bar, whereas mine has two because that's a standard. You don't have full-size DWG at the bottom, and the text is wrong. It looks like Calibri maybe, possibly
Mhm.
Arial, but it's definitely not Arial narrow. This is as simple as going to my model and ripping it out again. Copy paste whatever. Um, so yeah, I quickly went through here and highlighted. Okay, that's wrong, and then that's wrong. That's missing entirely. So on and so forth. Like I said, just quickly flipping through very fast, very high level.
Mhm.
Um, the next thing I'll do is come back to the beginning of the drawings. If you hadn't figured that one out yet, is I'll actually look at the I1 sheet overall. This is where I will begin every single time. And here's why. There's a dimension line
Oh.
sitting in the middle, and there's no telling how long it's been there because nobody ever looks at the sheet, right? So yeah, I
Yep. That's
did call that
correct.
out. I have to edit that one out. The next thing I will do is I'll do a Shift T, which allows me to select text, select a little bit, Control A, which highlights everything, Control C, copy, and then Control P into a blank text document. What that'll allow me to do is come to the editor and do a quick spelling check. Okay. For our work, you will get a lot of false flags like TR1, CR1, XOO. Yeah, you just either have to quickly identify them, add them to the dictionary, something to that effect. I did all of the spell checks on your drawings. I did find a couple of errors I went ahead and highlighted, but I do that on every single sheet, period. Every single one, because it's 10 minutes to do this.
Mhm.
So, spell check.
I I do notice off the bat I did not add that photo detail number
Oh, yeah,
into
down
the
here.
symbols. I do
Well,
need to add that, and it looks doubled.
it is doubled. The good thing about it, you don't actually have to add that. It's on the general sheets.
Okay.
So, if Tony wants it, great. If he doesn't care, take this off and it's covered under the G sheets. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And for people on YouTube, what I mean by the G sheets in our industry, we present general sheets, architectural, structural, civil, uh, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, process mechanical, and then INC drawings. Not necessarily in that order, but it's all one single package. And it's going to be anywhere from 200 to 1200 pages of drawings just like this. So when I say G sheets, it's the general sheets that define, okay, what does a detail number look like? What does a header look like? What does basic things like this look like? And then the individual disciplines will have their own diagram symbols and whatever else that's applicable only to their discipline. Same thing with abbreviations. Most of these abbreviations are going to be more towards the electrical or the INC, whereas there's going to be an abbreviations page on the G sheets that covers things like, not in scope, not applicable, owner furnished, contractor installed, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Uh, since you and I work so much with templates, I would not recommend going through and removing these or, fixing them just because this is more or less a one-off. Everything on the right-hand side, north arrow because it's a major thing, view titles, and spelling. All right, and the last thing I do from a CAD drafter's perspective is come through here and look very quickly at the views themselves. Simple things like, hey, your text is sideways and it's not supposed to be. Go into my model, grab the family because I spent 3 hours working on it, and it actually works, by the way. So if it's not working correctly after you grab it, let me know and I'll show you how. That's wrong. And is this supposed to be aligned right there? It's simple things like that. Um,
Mhm.
One thing I did catch on mine, I have a mix of keynote symbols. Some of them are legacy and don't have the background, so you would be able to see lines behind here. Some of them are current and do have the whiteout. And if you can't read the keynote because it got printed off and there's too many lines in the back, that's a problem. And that has happened on multiple occasions. So it's small things like that. And I know it's kind of hard on a project like this, but yeah. Other things I look for as I'm quickly going through here is, okay, is what you hashed out here proper? And in this case, this particular photo, the answer is no. You hashed out chem feed pipes. This isn't conduit. But your
Right.
but your keynote says, demolish all the conduit. There's no conduit there. There is some in the background, but it doesn't. It wouldn't be very clear for the contractor to know that's what you're trying to demolish. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, I know this is minor and nitpicky. As you get more into your EOR status, you might care. I, as a drafter, will bring this to the corner and make sure it's on the corner across the board. Some engineers are like, no, that's good enough. That's fine. Me, I don't know. I got a little bit of OCD or something, I guess. So this thing floating way down here is a little off. Stuff like that. Quickly go through there. Is all the text right? It's just this isn't the right style of text. It's just Arial instead of Arial narrow, so on and so forth. This is my receptacle that lives in my model. You are showing it as new, which tells the contractor he should be installing it, but you could provide no information. You could turn it gray. You could hide it. You could do half a dozen other things. You could even say, provided by others, coordinate with the EC, something to that effect. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Something else that I did notice is there's a lot of um, EORs that are particular on this. I myself throw my hat in that ring as far as, come on, there we go. This is what this should look like. There should be an arrow, something like that.
Mhm.
I don't have any of my families. So instead of like it should be either touching or touching or touching, one way or the other, whether it's an arrow or physically up against something like that. It should be touching because if it's floating, the contractor can make an argument of it was not clear what you were trying to do.
Right.
I don't know how Tony is about that, but like this, no, I personally wouldn't allow this. I would force it to be something like that.
Okay.
Tony's the EOR. You do what he says because this is his seal, and that's how that should work. If he doesn't care, then great. Don't spend the time. Oh, I think I might have missed this in my markups. That needs to go down.
Right.
Any questions over any of that?
I have some questions about the plan views. Should they be bordered or is it okay being shown this way? Do you have any recommendations for how to show that control panel? Is the enclosed region good enough? Or is there a better way to show that there's going to be something new going there?
I'll address the first question first. So in Revit, there's a setting that makes you allow to see this or not. I
I
always,
hate it.
yeah, I always follow whatever process mechanical does, since that's the current uh, people we're working for. Whatever they do, whoever I'm working for, if they have the border, I do the border. If they don't, I don't. Personally,
Okay.
if it's just an electrical plan set, I don't show the border if it's very clear and easy to decipher. Since there are, sorry, that's kind of bugging me, stuff like that. Since there are very clear callouts of this is what we are looking at right there,
Mhm.
or there, I guess, you
Yes.
don't technically have to have the border.
Okay.
Regarding the panel, um, I used actual control panel family in my
Mhm.
drawings, and you're welcome to go steal that if you want. It 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 looks better, in my opinion. Like I knew immediately that this was a wipeout or a whatever you called it,
Mhm.
a field region. There we go. I knew
Yes,
immediately
a
it was a
field
field region.
region.
Does it get the point across? Yes, undoubtedly. For the most part, it gets the point across that there is a control panel. Done. Does it look better if you do an actual family? Well, yeah, because that's how Revit was made. In AutoCAD, that's a whole different story. We're talking about Revit. Any additional questions? Those are good ones.
Mm, trying to think. The region call out that I have on this sheet, is that an okay placement or is that too far? Actually, I don't know why that photo call out is there.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that shouldn't be there, right? Because this is a new plan.
that is correct. I
So
called
that
that
is
out.
from a demo sheet. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I called that out on the markups.
All right.
That would be. Oh, you didn't even have the. Yeah. So that one that you just said shouldn't be there should be sitting right here, I guess, or wherever it is.
I didn't put it on the bottom section because that
Oh, it's not demo, is it?
polymer is brand new. Right.
Yeah.
So the new plans have a demo call out and they should not.
Yes. Agreed. Yep.
Got it. Got it. I see it. Okay.
Yeah, I marked that up incorrectly on the red lines, by the way. I didn't catch that there's no demo there. So, great question. Anything else?
Not. Oh, do each of these need a north arrow?
Yeah, I'd put a single north arrow up there. If,
Okay, just
if,
one.
yeah, if I'm showing any floor plan whatsoever, or RCP for that fact, reflected ceiling plan for the people on YouTube, I have a north arrow. And that way the contractor kind of get an idea of exactly where they're at. If
Okay.
if I have to have two because I've got this pointing at 83 degrees and this pointing at 243 degrees, then I just take that kind of a one at a time or follow whatever I'll ask whoever I'm working for how to do that, and if I'm just doing electrical only drawings, I'll just put the north arrow below each one. Uh, so continuing through, that's the type of stuff that I'm looking for from the drafter's perspective. Um, Things like this is all grayed out, and there's a lot of blank spaces here.
Is great. Okay.
A lot of exits, stuff like that. Just overall, because stepping back and looking at it from a how does this actually look? Can I center that up? Probably. Would it make it a little bit more cleaner? Yeah, probably. Is it required? No, but it would look better. So
Mm.
that's the type of stuff I'm looking for on drafting. Is I was thinking we've pretty much covered everything. Oh no, we didn't. All right. I totally missed something here at the beginning.
Mhm.
The drawing sheet numbers. Do they match what process mechanical or whoever, architect, whoever, do they match what we're supposed to be doing? The first rendition that you submitted, you and I both had 60% really wrong because we were just trying to get something out the door. Your 90% version 1 was a lot closer. Very good, because I see you broke it out accordingly. There was some complexity later on that I said just go reference my sheets. However, on things like this, these were supposed to be in the Y drawings.
Okay.
So yeah, so people on YouTube, I totally forgot. Make sure that your sheets are numbered correctly. And if you're doing simple drawings like E1, E2, E3, E4, make sure that you don't skip one and go from E4 to E6 or E50 to E55 because that's happened. So yes, that's something that you should always look at from the drafter's perspective. Same thing with the details. Are they put on the right drawing? Are they put on the right number? You have details here and you have a detail here. That's kind of borderline to me. That's ultimately up to Tony. If Tony is okay / wants it here, great. Technically, it should go on the details sheet, but I mean, I could totally see why you put it in here. That's why it's kind of a gray area. Like I don't disagree with you on this one.
Okay. I tried to break it up by plant site, I guess, since this one's.
Yeah, and yeah, I knew exactly what you were thinking.
Okay.
But in the G sheets, there is a details. I believe it's Z. Yeah, Z is the details. Yep.
Great. Gotcha. Details for Z.
Yep.
I do have one clarification question. Are panel faces details, or would they also stay on the Ys?
If I can fit them, no, actually, I take that back. I always put them on the Y. The
Okay.
reason being is if I'm sitting here looking at, okay, I should have a green push button, and I should have an amber push button, and I should have a local remote switch. I don't want to have to flip between pages to realize that I don't have a green or an amber or a power or a fault light. I only have a pump on that's supposed to be red, and it's not reflected over here.
Mhm.
I also have a local off remote as opposed to a local remote. And I'm less likely to identify that if they're on two entirely different pages.
Okay.
The contractor and the panel builders, this is what they prefer because it's just so much easier. If you get pushback from your EOR or from architects, process mechanical, whatever, whoever's running it, okay, then you can have that conversation. But I've never gotten pushback, and I will stand by that until somebody convinces me otherwise.
Okay.
So yeah, because I know if I'm making this panel, picture and lines do wonders. So great question. I like it. Anything else?
That's all I had.
All right. So until further notice, that's pretty much how you go through it from a drafter's perspective. Does it look overall, can I line these things up? Okay, those two are. It just looks kind of weird. Maybe those aren't lined. Maybe center it up. However, make them look okay overall. And I say that as a general statement of make them look okay overall. That takes time, experience, which you are still gaining. I fully understand that you're, relatively new. Until you hit the 5, 6, 7 year mark, you're still kind of getting a good idea of what does this thing look like. So, all
Yes.
right, come here. All right, so we've gone through everything from a drafter's perspective. Now let's put our engineer's hat. Okay, do I have all the symbols that I need for the things at minimum that I have in here? I quickly found yes, but I also looked at some of your abbreviations, and you don't have certain abbreviations in here, like SCH for schematics, CHEM for chemicals. I called those out on all the markups, but
Okay.
people on YouTube, like, if you have abbreviations in your drawings, you have to have them here, or the contractor can say whatever he wants, and you have no leg to stand on.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good note to have then.
Yes. All right. So from engineering perspective, okay, I start here. All right. I personally usually have a split screen so that I can read the notes. We'll just start with keynote 1 and see exactly where my notes at. All right. Terminate cabling and conduit per sheet DIA-3. Okay, so we're talking about this, which you should know is what we're doing. And then I'm going to go look at DIA-3. Okay, so that's 1 where it was. There's 2, and there is no DIA-3. So I'm going to call that out. You got a problem there. That's the type of engineering perspective that I'm talking about. Just reading the simple notes. I always start at the top just to make things simple, but I want to show you kind of the idea. So I read all of your notes one by one individually, marked up some that were like, I don't know what this means. This doesn't make sense. You misspelled that. You forgot this. This got changed. Stuff like that, which is all, simple, but
Mhm.
should have been caught by anybody that was reviewing these. The what 2 or 3 people that reviewed these should have gone through those and actually read them.
Mhm.
So, so you'll do that sheet by sheet. Let's go find. Yeah, sure. Let's do this one. All right, so I'm going to zoom in there. Keynote 1, which is sitting right there. So we're talking about that panel and this panel. Prior to commencing demo plans, verify and document that all power sources to this panel are de-energized, locked out, and properly isolated. Existing panel should be removed carefully to avoid any damages to incoming wire and conduit. And I'll continue reading that, and I'm not going to do it because whatever. But I read each one and go, does this make sense?
Mhm.
Yes, no. Does this cover everything we're looking for? Sometimes they don't. Okay, and what I mean by that is, let's go look at one of your new plans. Okay, so you're saying that you have a new control panel right there, right? Let's make this slightly consistent. All right, so we're talking about this control panel. All right, a couple things that I see off the bat. First of all, install panel. Excuse me. Typical sheet IA3 and IA4. Let's go look at sheet IA3 and IA4. So you've actually got them. So IA3 is your schematics. IA4 is your picture. Okay, great, awesome. So if I'm going to install this, what do I need to install it? How am I installing this? Who's providing this?
So would you need to call out the spec at this point?
It would be helpful to either,
Okay.
if you don't have particular information in the drawings, you do need to reference the spec, especially if you do have that information. So, people on YouTube, how I approach this personally is I am telling a contractor to go install this panel. Okay. If I'm going to do this myself, I'm going to go get a panel. Well, okay, who can I buy this panel from? What size should it be? What type of materials? Is it, a NEMA 12, NEMA 4X? Is it stainless steel, painted steel? Do I need, a single point latch? Do I need quarter turn latches? All of that stuff should either be called out on the drawings or in the specs or a combination of both. The reason I say a combination of both is because you're going to have 2 big picture people contractor wise looking at this project. You're going to have the people in the field and you're going to have the people buying the stuff for the people in the field. People buying the stuff for the people in the field are going to be reading your specs, supposedly. So they're going to go buy, 7 or 8 control panels for this particular project alone. The people in the field are going to go grab the control panels and go install them. Well, what if they don't, what if there's only 2 or 3 different types of control panels? Do they need a 4X? Do they need a NEMA 12? Do they need a stainless steel, whatever else? So I usually throw those basic concepts for the people in the field in the keynotes as well as the specs so that they know which one is what. And this also helps future people, future engineers, future workers on this site to go, hey, these were 4X 316 stainless steel. All of my future ones need to be 4X 316 stainless steel. All right, so I've got my panel in my hands. I'm going to install this. How do I hang this? How do I mount this? There's no reference to an equipment rack. Okay, let's just say that I know I need to build an equipment rack. Okay, what do I build this out of? Well, it's a Unistrut equipment rack, most likely. Okay, am I fastening this to a concrete floor? Am I, am I boring holes and pouring concrete in this thing, or am I mounting it to the wall of this thing? What does that look like? How do I physically mount this? Yeah, and I'm keeping the conversation truncated because I know your time's short, my time is short, but taking that approach of, okay, I'm telling the contractor to do this, but if I'm doing this, how do I do it? You know, I try to think that through every single time when I say install this or provide that on everything. And after a while, I just kind of get used to, okay, well, I need this information and that and that and that and that information.
Mhm.
But when you're first starting out, do it to the best of your ability. And then the engineer will help you gain more knowledge later on as you continue going. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
All right. So I'm going to, again, like I said, just take that thought process and apply it for everything else throughout everywhere.
Mhm.
For now, I'm going to move on to these things. And I do want to do that. Let's see. There. All right. So, schematics. And like I said, I marked up one, maybe two of your schematics. After a while, it's like, I can't keep doing these. The quickest and easiest thing, especially when we have the pictures right here, is, okay, I have a start and stop button. Do I have it over here? Yes, independent. But I noticed that this says start and stop, and this says fill start, fill stop. So if it were me, I would put fill.
Okay.
Fill start, fill stop, whatever. However you need to do that.
Mhm.
The nomenclature on the schematics should be verbatim for what's on the control panel.
Okay.
Having said that, what's on the control panel here should also be verbatim on what's on the floor plans. So, for instance, you have LAS tank fill. Okay, what do you have here? You have LAS day tank control panel. Well, okay, so there's two names that aren't the same.
Okay.
Let's see, where is it? Right there. Here you have L.A.S with no third period, day tank control panel, which I think this is a different control panel altogether. But your nomenclature isn't consistent across the board. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So, people on YouTube, you, if you're going to name something, name it and stick with the name.
Mhm.
If the process mechanical or architecture or whoever doesn't already have a name for it, determine what makes the most sense, what's going to be able to be used across all your drawing types, your loop diagrams, your schematics, your whatever else, and use that. Or what's going to make the most sense to the end user. That's typically where I try to start. Are they going to know what LAS tank fill means? Typically, yes, on something like that. But you have to name it consistently throughout the entirety of the project. Or when people come back looking at this, trying to troubleshoot, you know, whatever this light is, and these drawings are 15 years old and half of it's rubbed off, they may not have the day tank high level indicator or may not see it or whatever else. So if you have day tank high level right there, you should probably have, day tank high level indicator or something to that effect. You were keeping names and stuff up there, but you lost them here, for instance.
Yeah.
So nomenclature across the board to me is an engineering thing, especially for the control panel shop that's having to build this. What do they call it? Do they call it transfer pump off? Do they call it transfer off? Like, which one should it
Also be
be?
transfer pump.
Yeah,
What they call it right now, I think it's just pump on, pump off.
yeah. And sometimes the clients will actually dictate what they want to see, or if you ask
Okay.
them, they'll dictate what they want to see, and that's fine. I personally, that's my preference. You tell me what you want, and I'll put it on there. But if they don't care, then great. The next thing is it's high level things like that. The next thing I would do after verifying the high level stuff is, okay, does this actually work? Okay, let's start at the top line. Well, start stop is contingent on CR4. What is CR4? Low level lockout. Well, that's contingent on R4. What is R4? You don't have an R4. Oh wait, you do. It's right there, but you don't know what it is. So first
Um,
line, I'm already lost. I don't know what's going on here.
Relay 3 on the PD device should go to relay 4, which is the bulk tank low level.
So this CR4 is this R4?
Yes, that should be R3.
Okay.
They should move up. I didn't rename them, so
All right.
yeah, PD 6060 R2 should be R1, and then R3 should be R2.
All right. What is relay 3?
That should be the low level signal coming from the bulk tank.
Okay. Where do you show that?
I do not showing it coming
Okay. How are we getting a low level signal?
from the bulk tank. I don't know.
Okay. Do you know the possible ways to get a low level signal?
Do you mean just as far as like a digital output signal or something from a transmitter?
Yeah, like we could put pressure indicator or pressure
Okay.
transmitter on the bottom. We could do a level indicator from the top.
I
That
think this one has a level indicator on the bottom only.
okay. So all of those questions that I'm asking right now, like that's the very first thing that a contractor or the panel shop builder is going to ask. Like, you're telling me these things, but you didn't tell me what they are, how we're getting them, stuff like that.
Mm.
And please don't get me wrong. Like, I'll be the first and I'll be the first to say yes. When you get all this stuff laid out, you're like, yes, this works. And then somebody points out something simple, and you're like, oh man. And then you find more stuff, and it's super frustrating and whatever else. Like, I get that. I'm not knocking you at all on that.
No, no, continue. I need this. This is probably where the biggest struggle was.
I could
Because I
tell.
think it makes sense. I know. I know. This was probably the biggest struggle. It's because I understand what I want it to do, but I know I'm not showing it clearly or right.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how we're getting that signal, but I know the signal's existing. So if they connect it back how they had before, it's still there.
Well, this is which one is this? This is LAS Day Tanks. That's
Yes.
this one.
So
Okay,
this
right.
is the two panels that they had there are going to be demoed and then replaced by this one big panel that does the same thing.
Oh, okay. All
We're
right.
just merging it into one.
Okay. So to thoroughly go through one of these, like even just one of them, that's like an hour and a half long discussion period.
Hmm.
So for the purposes of this video, we'll skip that. The idea of let's continue looking at this from an engineering perspective for the drawings themselves. This is how you would start looking at these drawings, at these schematics. Having gone through all of, moving on to the next step. All right, so let's actually just stay here right now. We would look at, does this schematic accomplish the things that we are trying to do? That would be based on, was it the controls narrative?
Hmm.
I don't remember seeing anything about any of these control panels in the controls narrative.
No, the controls narrative only covered the bypass pump area. It didn't cover any of these panels.
Yeah, me personally, I would expect it to. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe Tony wants it differently. I don't know. But for the people on YouTube, like, just assume that if you're telling the controls people to do things, you need to tell them how to do it, or the overarching idea of how this is supposed to work. Because while a picture is literally worth 1,000 words, you can have 10,000 words in a controls narrative and another 10,000 words in specifications, and you have to have all three in order to get the full picture.
Right. Okay.
So, all
So
right, so
that's going to be on the list then. I do not have a controls narrative for these schematics.
yeah, and Tony may not want one, and you may not have time, and I'll let y'all figure that one out. However, that needs to happen. That may be an offline conversation. So,
Okay.
all right, see, so there's these. All right, moving on. It'd be the same concept here that we've already discussed on the previous ones. The same concept, we talked about that already. Alright, so we're putting this FIT, the indicator part, over here. And for the people on YouTube, a little background, there's a flow meter going in this vault that's going to be there. Her contract says that she's got the flow meter side and getting it here and getting it to SCADA. My contract says I have to give her conduit to do this. Okay, so let's look at it from both perspectives at the moment. Okay, she needs to tell me, we email or something, hey, I need 1-inch conduit from this part to that part. That's coordination between trades. On the drawings, she would say something to the effect of conduit to be provided by EC or by others, or coordinate with EC for installation of conduit. Something to that effect. That way the controls contractor isn't thinking, I've got to get conduit over here too. He accounts for conduit, trenching, repair of the drive, and then the EC accounts for conduit, trenching, and repair of the drive, and the owner gets charged twice for the exact same thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does.
Okay. All right. She did call out a shield fit, FIT with mount and shield, which the first 3 times I read that, I read it as fit with mount and shield.
Good point.
Yeah, because I didn't, like, it didn't dawn on me you were trying to say this is the flow indicator transmitter, because technically the flow transmitter's down here and this is the indicator.
Mm-hmm.
So, however you need to wordsmith that, yes, we definitely need a shield, like, hands down. And I did see that you had a shield shield description in your specifications somewhere, as I
Yeah,
quickly
I
scrolled through them.
think the detail shows one also. Yeah.
Fit with mounting stand and sun shield. Yeah, well, yeah. So there's a lot of different sun shields out there. And just saying, give me a shield is like saying, give me an automobile.
Okay. So do I need to specify like we want a stainless steel, or I guess I referenced the specs?
Uh, you can to be safe. That's going to be ultimately a Tony thing.
Mm-hmm.
I will normally call out for a 316 stainless steel or a 304 or whatever, just so it's very obvious, like this is a metal shield that needs to be covering this away from the sun. Again, it's kind of like okay, where do you stop? Where do you draw the line between specs and drawings? Well, there's
Mm-hmm.
some areas that need to kind of be having both. This is one of those kinds that needs to have both, and it's just experience that tells you what exactly you put on both.
Okay.
All right, softball small marked on the sheet. Okay, so yeah, talked about that. Here's your north arrow, slightly off.
Mm-hmm.
Meter pressure switch. Okay, so let's look at this from an engineering perspective. All right, so you're saying flow meter and pressure switch. Then you have an arrow, which, oh, I didn't catch this. The arc isn't the standard,
Okay.
but which one is which? Like Keynote 3 says, flow meter to be mounted on the second floor. Refer to EW1. Well, okay, so maybe that is the flow meter. I'm assuming that makes that the pressure switch, but that shouldn't have to be an assumption.
Right.
Pull mine up. I'm gonna right there. All right. In my drawings and the markups I sent you, I have the names in here now. By the way,
Okay.
this tag clearly identifies this as the pressure switch, and this tag clearly identifies that as the flow transmitter, which is now a flow indicator transmitter. I guess I should ask this. You know the difference, right, between a FT and a FIT and a FI?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I wanted to make sure, just to be safe. For the people on YouTube, an FIT is a flow indicator transmitter. It indicates and it transmits as well. FI is just the indicator. FT is just the transmitter. The short version of it is you can, if you got an indicator, it's going to be a display somewhere. Our case is our indicator is going to be here on the first floor, mounted on the same rack as my bypass pump VFD. So we need to have a little indicator right there showing that that's the FI, and this would be still the FT, and they would be one and the same. I still need to get, I do have conduit going from there to there, start on. All right, does that make sense from the engineering perspective?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Any questions over that? I know I keep rambling, but I want to keep asking that.
Nope, no questions yet.
Okay. All right. So that is that. To me, the next thing is kind of half drafting, half engineer, hat on. All of this is dark and looks like it's all new. The only thing that
Right.
told me it's not new is you say this is an existing PLC. The controls contractor is going to look at this and go, that's not a PLC, that's a cabinet. Is this all new, and is the existing PLC a fat finger, or is that something else? So it's been my experience that if you gray out or clearly call out something that is either existing or new or however that needs to happen, visually makes things so much faster and easier. Um, Also using the right, is that an 8-port?
Yes.
Okay, because we have a 5-port in there right now, right?
Right. That's supposed to be the new port that we're replacing. And then I guess we're keeping the old groove and we're adding in the groove epic just next to it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And
I'm assuming this is the old one and this is the new one, right?
vice versa.
Oh, okay. Where was that indicated at?
That's the new one.
Yes.
Two should the general note two. I guess
Oh,
I
general
put the
note.
number. It should have been a general note. Yeah, the number two shouldn't be there then. I think I moved it from keynote to general note.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this really, to me, these are keynotes.
Okay.
Because if it's specific to this stuff, this thing, general notes are going to be, coordinate with owner prior to shutdown, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But this is equipment specific stuff, so to me, it should be a keynote. Again, Tony's the EOR, so he's got the final say on that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and you've got like keynote 1 sitting up here and a keynote 1 over there. I have no idea what this is. Stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, those need to be removed.
All right. Oh, and nothing calling out that this is a new switch.
All right.
All right. So we have done drafter. We've done engineer. Now we would go through as the contractor. I like this one. All right. Keynote 1. You said prior to commencing, the existing panel should be removed carefully to avoid damage to incoming wire and conduit. All existing connections are to be reserved to the greatest extent, as the panel will be replaced and reconnected to the instrumentation. Okay. From a contractor perspective, hear that I'm supposed to unhook all of the wires in here, remove the panel and mounting hardware, replace the panel with what you have shown later on in the drawings here,
Mhm.
right? And mounting hardware for that fact. How is there a way that I know? I see. I'm trying to think of how to ask that. What instruments are coming in here? How do I need to tag these as this is instrument LIT something. This is instrument PT something. Does that even matter, or can I just do my own thing? What happens if one of the wires breaks? What happens if there's disconnected wires in here? Do I need to figure out what happens to them? Do I just cut them off with the conduit? Um, Things like that. Like from the actual, how do I get my hands into this and physically do it? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I know it can be kind of cumbersome, and some engineers completely skip it over. They're like, that's means and methods. And sometimes that's totally fine. That's totally acceptable. If the client has very specific things that they need or want, or if you know that there's a bunch of just random spare conductors sitting in here, you might want to call that out just to give the contractor a heads up. Um, because the contractors, when they go to price this thing or bid for this thing, like this is a huge black box to them. They may price it from here to the moon. They may be like, oh, this is $500 to replace this thing, and it turns out that they have to replace all the conductors in here because they got corroded as well, and it turns into a $5,000 project. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And that would be the same applicable for pretty much across the board.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, I keep meaning to ask this. These Unistrut racks in the background, they were good, right?
I think they were good, but we agreed to just still replace everything because the new panels are going to be slightly larger.
Oh, okay. Did you call that out? I missed that.
Probably not here. It should be in the specs. Or it should have been. Probably have to double check that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did not look in the specs. Oh yeah, these things. I'm at a panel shop, and I'm going to go build these things. Let's go find this one. All right. So from the builder's perspective, excuse me, I know that I need to have a 480 volt transformer in here, and that this 480 is continuing on to the motor. I'm curious, is there 480, like, where's this 480 coming from? And coming back to you and I, like, there's not 480 in this area. I gave you a receptacle, and that was it, because I
No,
didn't know any better.
that's the receptacle. Okay, so it's just the receptacle that's there.
Oh wait, that's,
So that's for the polymer.
yeah, this one. That's why
Yeah.
this is really confusing, by the way.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because this is polymer, which is that one. I didn't know that you need a 480. I don't think we have 480.
It might not be 480. I might have just been incorrect. I will need to verify that.
Yeah, please do, because if it's 120, then you can get rid of this entire top line.
Okay.
All right, so yes, building it from the contractor's perspective, where do I get this 480 from? Is it new? Or it would be new since it's the new panel.
Hmm.
Okay, let me go look at the EC drawings. Well, that stupid engineer didn't have it on there. Well, that's because the EOR didn't coordinate with the other EOR. So, by the same token, small little details like this one. Um, you have two circuit breakers feeding a 120 to 120 isolation transformer. They're going to look at you like you're a moron if you send this in. Like, why do you have an
Hmm.
isolation transformer in here? You don't need it.
I was just told to make sure it's there, but then I didn't know what the power was, so I should have just left it blank instead of 120, 120.
No, I would not leave that blank. Um, which one is this? Transfer pump panel, transfer pump panel, transfer pump panel. Which one of these is that?
All three, technically.
LAS transfer pump panel. Wait,
Yeah, so there's one specifically for the LAS, and then the other one is for alum and fluoride. Yeah, that one is for alum and fluoride,
what do you
and the
call
one to the right is specifically for LAS.
what do you call that out at?
It was supposed to be right there in the general notes. Transfer pump panel to be used for sheet, and then I didn't type the sheet name in.
Oh,
So that's supposed to reference you back to the alum and the fluoride,
gotcha. Okay.
which I think I referenced it there in the keynotes.
It's at 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
ID2 and ID3.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeesh. Okay, that is something that we might need to figure out. We could probably figure that out from the photos of power, because when they go to build this, all they see is a transformer, and they're going to ask, what size transformer is this? What do you need? Primary, secondary? How big is it? So on and so forth. And typically, it's the kVA size is provided in the specs, for instance, can be provided here, but I didn't see any of this stuff on the specs. So
Okay.
uh, obviously, from the contractor's hat, you can go into very deep detail on all of this, which you should. And every time you QC these things, I'm not going to go into it, but I think you kind of get the gist of how do I actually build this thing physically. So, did you mention you didn't? You probably mentioned it somewhere else. Signal to panel. Sort of. I did mark up. This is going to the VFD, not the panel. You did not
Okay.
mention conduit or cables by vendor. Yeah, so on and so forth. So,
Okay.
all right. That's
VFD.
all right. So
Okay.
in short, by the time you're done, you should have gone through every single line, every single line here, every single
Okay.
line over here. You should have touched, looked at, thought through literally 100% of this project from all three perspectives, at minimum engineering and contractor. I know it's hard and you're learning, and I still struggle with it myself. Oh, easily, especially since I've been out of this for the last 4 or 5 years. Like I just did one for TP7 on this project, and I failed miserably.
Yes, I definitely do need to start doing the self QAQC before just sending it to other people to QAQC.
Yeah. So, and it'll help, like because the engineer is going to catch things you didn't, and that's expected. But if he's catching things that you should have, some engineers kind of get flustered with that, and they will not work with you, or they will not try to help you grow. They'll just use you as a CAD monkey, because I don't have a better word. A draftsman. There we go. They'll just use it as a draftsman and not teach you anything. All right. So quick run through specs, right? The very first thing, always at the top. Does this look like everything else? The answer? No, not even close. So format this the way it's supposed to be formatted according to everybody else's. I don't know if you saw any of the other specs, but they are now on SharePoint, so feel free to go and rip them off. I know I've said this to you before, but people on YouTube, this is not high school. This is not junior high or college. If you can get access to the other people's work, go get it so that you can copy it. That's not cheating. That's called professionalism. Because if the client gets things that all look the same, that's what they're supposed to get. That's not wrong. That is right. So go look at other people's work, match theirs. Whoever's in charge, do that. All right. So formatting, headers, footers. None of this looks right. People on YouTube, there's a whiteout so you can't see, but the footers didn't look right either. And then if you're doing this the right way, you will literally read every single line and understand every single line of every single one of these pages. You have 89 pages of specs. The electrical specs were 300 or so, and yes, I read them. And it's fine and dandy on that many, but when you get like 1,200 pages of electrical specs on some of the larger projects, you still need to read them. You need to have an understanding of what you're reading. And
Right.
if you don't, there's ways to learn. If you don't know what's in there or what it means, you need to learn it over time. Go ask an engineer, go ask YouTube. I am YouTube certified, and I can't tell you how many things. But Google usually does a decent job, and some of the spec writing software, by the way, does a decent job. Um, that can be an offline conversation, but nonetheless, like if you don't know what something means, like if you don't know what a historian programming or historical data collection is, you need to understand that. So
Right.
go through every single line. When you come to numbers or other sections, make sure it's actually in there. Like you were missing 21A in this list. You also don't have the
Okay.
same nomenclature. So this one's called process control narratives, and then the actual 96A is called something else.
Okay.
So let's see, typical. Let's see, did I already mark that? Yeah. So footer's not right. Missing, like I said, you're calling out for specs that weren't submitted. Let's see, a whole bunch of other stuff. Come on. Oh, that's all those. Expense sheet. All right. I know it can be quick and I know it can be easily missed, but as soon as I saw this one, it's a blank sheet. Like there's
Right.
literally nothing in here. Like yes, that's there, but there's nothing else. That
I,
told me
I see.
immediately that nobody looked at these overall, and I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of sheets missing from that. Um, there's also small things like we were talking about monitoring discharge pressure, but we don't monitor with a switch. It's just either on or off.
Right.
So small nuances like that can be kind of hard to track.
Okay.
Let's see what else. Okay. These are the control panels. So inside, y'all were calling for NEMA 12, which is pretty common. But all the other disconnects, all of the other control panels in there are at least 4x stainless steel. So I called that out. I didn't review these hardly at all. I spent maybe 30 minutes reviewing them just because I skimmed them to see if I could catch small things like that. And whenever I started seeing small things that I could tell actually hadn't been read, it's like, Tony didn't actually read these, or whoever was supposed to read these didn't. So I'm just going to push them back to y'all.
Okay.
Things like we're not replacing the Opto anymore. We're the Rio anymore. We're adding to it. That just wasn't updated whenever that got changed. So uh, people on YouTube actually read these things, read through the whole thing. Don't skim over them. You need to actually read these things because this is what the contractors are held to. This is what they are required to build to. And if you have something in here or don't, they can either use that against you in either direction and say, "We didn't tell me to," or "You told me to do this, so I have to do this legally." Whenever the first time you go to court because of some $2 million, your spec said this and I built it like this, and now you're telling me to change it at my own expense, contractor will take you to court for that, and they will win because this is part of the contract documents. It is a legal binding thing when they bid and are awarded the contract. So what's in here shall be built according to law. There's some horse trading back and forth. I won't argue that one. Generally speaking, if things go sour, this is the end all be all. Whatever this says is how this thing should be built. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I know that sounds like a lot, but after you've read like thousands and thousands and thousands of pages, you're like, okay, you can actually get faster at that. So, all right. High level recap. People on YouTube, what we talked about was drafter's perspective in reviewing the drawings, engineer's perspective in reviewing the drawings, contractor's perspective in reviewing the drawings. This is how you should be doing drawing reviews, QAQC, before it ever goes to the EOR, and definitely before it ever goes out to whoever you're contracted to or to the client. This is the very minimum of how this should work.